on the entry game, it's going to get out of hand very, very quickly.
Brief reminder, by the way, Orbit did beat AAA on Cafe back on Monday in the quarterfinals. That is one of the 2 maps they picked up to send them to this semifinal. So you'd expect them to be a little bit favored in that match, but they are starting off on the attacking side, which, I mean, it depends on the game you're playing and who you're playing against to see who is favored in that matchup. In that match, it in order was Nook, Ying, Mira, and Azami as the bans coming through. I don't think anything's going to change here. I expect them actually to ban out... No, I was about to say the Ying. Instead, they keep it and will ban out the Flores.
It does leave her on the table, so that might make for some pretty interesting late round executions. We'll have to see what Orbit wants to bring. I think now that she's not banned, you could really see her slotted right on in. She could take the place of maybe a Flex, kind of anti-roam operator who needs to watch that flank. But with those bans coming on through on the defense, the second ban, I mean, it's a toss-up between something like a Solus or an Azami as well. Both can have very big impacts on the map itself, with Solus being that ban. So Azami making it through is a story that Hong Kong Rebels can take advantage of.
Yeah, and the same conversation is applicable back to the group stage as well. Back in round 3, we didn't see Cafe between these 2 teams, but Hong Kong Rebels or Orbit would ban Solus in every single game. It was HKR and Sky, and then Club and Villa had Orbit do it for him. So Solus was banned in every single map there, and I don't see a reason as to why this is different. But the difference here for Orbit is they have to play a little bit out of their bombs. Instead of having that Nook banned for them, they had to do it themselves, or instead of having Nook banned on the other side, they instead decided to ban Flores. And the odd position for them is taking away Solus instead of the Azami as well, so playing with it or against it's going to be an odd pickup. And here in the middle floor, going mining and dining, they don't even bring a Solus on the side.
Yeah, I mean, you can't bring a Solus. She's gone, Dan. She's taken
Azami.
off
I meant
the board.
Azami.
Yeah, it was Azami.
Totally meant Azami.
Right. One thing, though, is that Solus relies on information, but with a lot of these bans kind of being different operators, Valkyrie makes it through in the kind of recent meta that we're seeing, and HK Rebels can really rely on those black eye cameras, maybe the bulletproof that JetCon has set up, and if Orbit don't counter that with something like an IQ, which they don't have currently, that really could be a problem for them. Right now, they're bringing the Finka, they're bringing the Amaru. This indicates that they want to get in this building fast. ZZ prepping up that window, actually decides to drone out instead. So not just hitting the go button without really making sure. They do spot that player up on that second floor, but you can tell there is a fast execute around the corner.
They are trying to play this one a little bit more aggressive, and I'm not sure that Hong Kong's aware of it, at least maybe not ready for it. But their prep looks pretty good. You can see they're fairly far extended. Wimpy trying to aggress. I'm surprised there isn't a prep here on the castle barricade to try a run out, because I feel like Hong Kong Rebels would get that aggressive given the opportunity. But at this point, their defensive side is just playing for some more information, at least as of right now. Looking for this Gara hook up. CZ's trying to play aggressive. They want to try and catch that Doc out of position, and the flashes go in to try and push them away, but it doesn't work. JetCon still wins the fight, but only does for a single, and is immediately traded back.
It should clear the top floor. There might be a player over by Pallets, White Stairs. BJL is going to spray through the floor, does, but the Kaid takes him out. Now swaps to the pistol, knowing that there is a slinking player around. It was Doug. He is gone. So Rai Rai and Vipoa, they stay on this second floor with a lot of time on their side. Wasting the time is really not going to be an option unless Orbit take things to a crawl, which they shouldn't. At this point, it's a 4v1 with Vipoa set. They can storm the site, trade out a player for information, because at this point, that is the massive advantage that you have.
And Rai in a 1 versus 4 is going to try and play a complex game of hide-and-go-seek frag, and isn't going to be able to do so. BJL with their third on the round, able to frag out to start and to finish off. BJL looked away, hence the reason he reacted a little late. You always look at the map or look at a teammate or maybe information gathering. That happens. Welcome to first-person shooters, where timing will get the better of you. more often than not, but the setup worked for Orbit. And most importantly, their top floor clearance was set up between 3 or 4 separate players. You had CZ walking in on the new balcony, you had the drop from BJL, the flashbangs coming in from outside, courtesy of those Finkas, and most importantly, you also had your Habana there as well, picking up the frags when the rotation was there, and Orbit were able to bring in a 4 versus 2 in the first minute and 10 seconds.
Man, as well, it clears out that first floor, which you can see HKR, they're still going to try for information, especially with the Echo, but this time they do bring that Azami. She is very good for holding down specific areas. In this instance, it should be that bakery. And with the black eyes, with the yokai drones, unless they have some sort of Flores, which isn't here. It got banned out by Orbit. Funny enough, they're only bringing 4 set of frag grenades with combination of JetCon. I see a lot of moving parts here, Dan, but I also see a situation where HK Rebels, they use out those Kiba barriers, they drain so many frag grenades that they really hold down Bakery and make this push difficult for the attack.
Sure, if Doug pinged that to try and create a rotate, or to instead maybe reinforce it later, because it looks like the Hong Kong Rebels want to play aggressive inside a bakery, but their setup doesn't really allow them to do so, at least not all that much. Sure, you have the Kiba barriers, but those regenerate once in a while. If a quick bit of aggression from Orbit comes through and you don't expect it in time, you can be quickly cleared out, and there's very little utility to make up for it. That's a problem, and maybe an Achilles heel of this Hong Kong Rebels defense. If they over-expect something to work and it just doesn't whatsoever, that can cause more problems than it'll solve.
Let's see, I believe there's a Lion directly to the left. That is Wimpy. And he's been kind of quiet this season. He really stepped up in the previous matchup for Orbit, so it's great to see that. And he's already got 1 kill on the board. Like, I was there when Wimpy went like 0-9. So I have seen this man at his low point, and to have him at his high point would just absolutely send Orbit straight to the moon, as they are inside the building. They're getting that roam clear. Some footprints are spotted by Giddy, as now Vipoa definitely knows that someone is on his tracks. The Lion scan goes out. Vipoa decides to move during it. Maybe a little bit of a bait per se. He does go right on up. JetCon goes down, but the C4 is thrown, and CZ gets out of the way, so no trade is right there, Dan.
CZ just ran away, and the timing worked out a little bit better for CZ there. If Vipoa just swings there with the MPX out, CZ's a dead man, and you're looking at a 4v4, but luckily it's not the case. Granted, there is only a minute left in the round, and there's still a healthy bit of utility left for the defensive side. The only person to die is he who has place and forget utility. The ADSs, some barbed wire, depending on what setup you bring, but Vipoa will take care of the Gemini Replicator, and is still looking to play aggressive around towards the bottom of white. A kill here would be all important, but you cannot afford to die without bleeding either time or manpower away from this attack. You have to find something in your favor before, if at all, you go down.
And Vipoa, he's not Warden. He cannot sit through those flashbangs, but it fades just in time from to find CZ. But now Orbit has entered the site just below the sightline of the Valkyrie. Wimpy's able to take out Burnt Turkey, and now the information, those yokai drones and black eye cameras that I talked about are going to be so pivotal. And if Rai can stay alive, the time will continue to drain down, and those sonic blasts will be so good. But the yokai is shot out. Rai goes to his second, but he stands on up. Wimpy shoots him down. It's a second round in a row for Orbit, and one that is still very one-sided for them.
And it didn't look like Hong Kong Rebels had all that much to come back with. All of their play setup relied on one of two things. Either them pushing Bakery, them being Orbit, and running into Doug, who was playing there long term, or, and only or, they push in the other side of the map, which was open towards Freezer, and the Echo denies them. But the problem is, unless you have both yokai drones set up in the exact perfect position, or there's enough time on the clock, little time on the clock, to have that work in your favor, it just doesn't work out. Especially when the yokai drones now make noise, don't cloak anymore, and most importantly, you move them before you're trying to use them. In that case, you move it and lose it, and Orbit are able to win the round off the back.
You can do that maneuver, but if there's like 4 seconds left, with the amount of time that was on the clock, there's no way you get the Echo drone up, get the Sonic Blast, okay, there's still 15 seconds left in the round. You're not going to get a second one off. And even if you do, there still will be time on the clock. I think it was more of a desperation thing beyond anything else, because these two first rounds for Hong Kong Rebels have not been good. The only kills have come one from Vipoa, one from JetCon. The Roam has not found anything. It hasn't wasted time. It doesn't waste utility. It is being a little bit of a hot mess for this defense in the first 2 rounds, but I mean, we're only a third of the way through their first defense. There's still plenty of time for them to find some rounds, but they better do it sooner than later. Otherwise, they will be looking at a very large difference between them and their opponents.
Orbit has all that much they need to change either. HK Rebels obviously in a position where you need to change more than you have set up. But what in the world do you do if you're on this Hong Kong Rebels side to try and change what's worked thus far for Orbit? Utility's been fairly well set up for them, not only grenades, but flashes as well to set up engagements. Timing has been more than in their favor. They haven't been pressed for time in seemingly any one of these rounds, other than, well, I suppose the previous one only a little bit, but they were prepared for it. They were able to take out the Yokai drone and win anyway. The conversation for the Hong Kong Rebels has to be, can we find opening picks, and if not, can we delay more time? Because the answer thus far has been absolutely not, and that has to change sooner rather than later.
GL, there's a player hiding behind that reinforced wall. This right now has not died and will continue to not die as Wimpy gets that opening pick. He has 4, himself has not died. And Rai, no drones captured, no kills gotten, but Burn Turkey was a big player that the desk talked about, gets a lot of these entries for Hong Kong Rebels, and he is going to have to find something, anything for Hong Kong Rebels at this point. They will take scraps. Scraps are what Burnt Turkey gives them, and he finds 2 as well. He reloads, but CZ is there for the refrag, and all of it comes to a head with Orbit still having the advantage with a good amount of time to get information and execute on the site.
2v3. There is enough, considering a lack of information here on the attacking side for Orbit. The extent of their info is a single unreleased drone and the Gemini replicator, that of which is being used now. C4 does damage onto Inrio, but nothing lethal by any means, who is safe to still play from up above. But the problem point here for Orbit is that Hong Kong Rebels are playing together. They are playing the buddy system, so even if one kill is found, it's a trade potential and a 1 versus 2 they need to come back from. Wimpy's made a lot of noise on the bottom floor. They'll have to go buy that set of barbed wire and walk into both players set up around the fireplace / laundry door. They're waiting for this drop to come through. Both will look to walk through this laundry rotate, but it's a bait. Vipoa walking around, misses the shots with the SMG-11, and now it's on to Doug, who is dropped by CZ. That second highest rating in SFCL is ever growing, and Orbit make it 3-0.
I'm wondering, can he beat that rating he had? Like, how many kills did CZ have in this one? I know he is probably reaching some high amounts, at least within round 3, because it is getting bad for Hong Kong Rebels, I think, Dan. They have not found a lot of kills. They haven't found a lot of time wasting with their roam. I mean, I mentioned in the last round, but it's just looking in a mirror a lot of times. You're seeing the same things over and over. They're gonna go back to kitchen, which, I mean, I guess is the best site that we've seen for them, where they got 2 kills. Like, it's finding these very small moments where maybe Hong Kong Rebels can get a win. Overall, it has been a loss for them in these first 3 rounds. They have to change it. Like, what can they do to counter this Orbit attack? Because nothing they're doing is working.
10 seconds left before insertion.
I think the answer is just opening picks. That's the only feasible answer for them. Find an opening pick and then back away. That, or find an opening duel and then play advantages off the back. Because Hong Kong Rebels has done none of the above. They have lost opening duels, they have given away real estate because of it, and they aren't able to regain it. In round 1, they gave up the entire top floor after 3 gunfights transpired, maybe a 4th with the extra trade. And the second round wasn't all that much better. Even though it was a fairly close round overall, the extent of it relied on that Valkyrie play from Doug, and it didn't even go all that well in their favor. This is an odd position for Hong Kong Rebels to be in, because seemingly everything they could change would only have a minor impact. There needs to be a complete overhaul of this defensive setup, or this is going to be a 5 or 6-0.
Vipo actually did go for the white stairs window peek. Only took a lot of damage, didn't deal any in the process. As the orbit drones, you could see one has Rai's exact position. Yellow pings. They do spot the ADSs, so they have the frag grenades. They have everything they need to kill this player hiding behind the shield. Flashbang goes on, and Rai actually does back up, but Wimpy has that 4K CCTV footage that they would need. BJL preps the frag grenade, throws it on over, but it doesn't hit the mark.
What?
Either way, Doug still goes down. I think maybe he hit the window pane. Something. It's still nothing happening for Hong Kong Rebels. They have a 4v2 that they have to come back from. It's the same thing. 4 rounds in a row, Dan.
But nobody's on site. That's the problem here for the Hong Kong Rebels. They have nobody even in the general vicinity of site. If they want to fall back, they have to do so through the coat check hold. And I think most importantly, the site control that's already there here for Orbit. As they get the diffuser down, this round is basically a foregone conclusion. Coat check pressure will cost him his life, and Giddy finds a 4K, casually walking around with a C7E. The Spaniard, at least the operator, will walk away with a round here for Orbit.
This is not what any of us were expecting. To this degree.
I'd like to rescind my previous expectation of a Hong Kong Rebels 2-1.
Look, I didn't make a prediction, so I
Smart.
kind of skate under this scot-free. But wow, to this level, this isn't Hong Kong Rebels map pick, but I don't think you can even consider that at this point. Still only 4 kills. They have as many kills as Orbit has round wins. Doug, who's mainly that big fragger that you might see for Hong Kong Rebels, he does not have a kill on the board. He's going to equip that dock, as right now, HK Rebels still try to avoid that top floor. And I know that a lot of teams, like, they don't feel confident in sites, but maybe just go for something completely out of the ordinary. Put themselves on a site that you bring in something different, because I think that's the big thing. They need to bring something different, and nothing is changing.
I think the problem is they've played every single site thus far. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they have played all 4 of the sites, yeah? They
have not.
lost
I
the
don't think
bottom
they've
floor.
played Bar.
You're right, that's the only site they haven't played. However, they've
Exactly,
defended
that's
it
what I was
like
saying.
they've actually played Bar on 7 different occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least they've tried to. On all of those occasions. We'll move on, though. Orbit has been so clean with their takes, and I think the decisiveness for them has also worked out significantly more in their favor. They know what their play style is, and they know what works. They haven't been trying something different just for the sake of it, because A, this is a semifinal, and B, they don't really have to. They've been comfortable with what has worked, what is working, and what will probably work in the future. Hong Kong Rebels, however, haven't had anything work in their favor. You said it, 4 kills compared to the 4 rounds of Orbit. And what? They've found those kills in direct trades at a best possible situation, 2 of them in the previous round. You're looking at a game that is almost definitively in the favor of this Orbit attack, and there's not a whole lot the Hong Kong Rebels have done to make it any change.
It sounds like we're literally just dogpiling on Hong Kong Rebels. But I think the main reason for that is there just hasn't been a high point. There really hasn't been one moment of brilliance that has maybe seen that, yes, the Rebels are going to be in this match, and that continues with Burnt Turkey dying from the frag grenade from Giddy. And this top floor hold really relies on JetCon, who is alive no longer. With 1 minute and 30 seconds, half the round to go, HK Rebels have lost both of their roamers, which had C4s as well, so your plan now is mainly in the hands of Vipoa, and with that sledge, you can wail on the floor, send the defense scurrying throughout the site, and now, with Rai going down, it's essentially secure that they should get 5 rounds on their attack.
The extent of denial as well left over here for Hong Kong is only the 3 toxic babes. Congratulations, you have 45 seconds of denial, but you need to find a place to use it. And best case scenario is around towards mining. Doug is playing in the bomb chassis, trying to watch towards the white stairs walk up. My Poe is barely safe at this point, but will throw in their second of 3 toxic babes. Is down to just 1 for the final 45 seconds of the round. And Orbit are surrounding both sites. From above, from the sides, they are overwhelming the entirety of this defense, and it's down to just Doug, who had to fall down the hatch with the bailiff just to get out of dodge as the diffuser starts to go down. I think Doug's very soon to follow, but he does find a kill into Orbit to at least negate some damage.
He stims himself right back up, but now he's got time, which is not on his side here. Full health will get him so far. Moves up those stairs, but there is a player of Orbit directly ready for him. There's no time for Doug to stim, but he actually walks back down, goes for the stim, and now tries to re-challenge the stairs, of which there are all 3 Orbit members there. CZ gets the finish. And so your one last defensive run. No sight has worked. No roamers have worked. What do? You go back to kitchen. At least that is what Hong Kong Rebels are choosing to do. Oh, nope, they're choosing reading again. So that is their choice. It's locked in. Honestly, I don't think anything would have really helped them here. No choice that they can make is going to kind of get them out of this 5-0 hole that they're in, because none of these rounds have been close. Yeah. Not a single one has been debate-worthy or like, no, the Hong Kong Rebels can come back. It has been a beatdown of the highest order.
That round right there was actually tied for the closest round that Hong Kong Rebels have had thus far.
And there's 3 players live!
It was that in a 1v3, and then we saw the 2v3 earlier that turned into the 1v3 for Doug, and he just got domed by CZ because, honestly, CZ's just a fragger. He's him. Let's be real here. And I don't think Hong Kong Rebels have all that much of a response. By the way, this is a semifinal. This isn't like the 1 versus the 8 seed. This is Hong Kong Rebels, who, by the way, have been popping off all season.
They haven't lost since
3-0 in the Swiss stage. Now 0-5 in rounds in map 1. And needless to say, I think I speak for everybody here when I say this is not good.
Yeah, no. They are just prepping for the biggest comeback you've ever seen. They look horrible on map 1, lose it 7-0, Clubhouse. They 7-1 Orbit. Theme Park, they 7-2 Orbit, and then everybody is stunned. Is what will probably not happen. That is a storyline type play. Which you probably will not see, because the adaptation from Cafe to Clubhouse to completely change the narrative of the entire map would be a feat that I don't know we have yet to see in T3 Siege.
In all fairness to Hong Kong Rebels, they have yet to play Cafe thus far in SFCL Season 6. So maybe they over-prepped the Clubhouse map that they knew they were going to pick, and they knew that Orbit would allow through, and just forgot that the other maps in the pool existed. There are 8 other maps in the pool, by the way. And, well, 2 opening kills because CZ's cracked. JetCon needs to go to AIM Labs, and honestly, I think the reaction time, no matter what it would have been, he's not living through that fight. Rai is now left alone on the top floor, and if Rai dies here, I think the round is soon to follow. Rai was forced to turn around, he had to back away, and he couldn't do anything. By pose on a 1 versus 5, it's been 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Am I losing my mind? Like,
yes.
This is a semi-final, and we are having just what is essentially Oxygen plays in, what, TPL right now? Yeah. It is not fair. These teams don't look like they should... What?
This is an outlook as to how TT9 is going to do in Vivid League in a couple weeks.
Yes. Look, there's a long off season. Some of these pro players, they got some stuff to do. Maybe they're subbing in for Orbit. I don't know. I know that Hong Kong Rebels, you have the attack. It is 6-0. I don't know what I can say at this point. We've run out of ways to talk about how badly Hong Kong Rebels is playing on Cafe. I would like to see the desk analyze this. I'm sorry that you are just going to be continuing to gas up Orbit, dumping on Hong Kong Rebels like we've been, but like I said, there's no high points in the entirety of this map. There's been 1 entry that was in the first round, which was immediately traded. So JetCon's 1 kill was onto the Amaru, which was immediately traded. Okay. I'm seeing Klims before we started had a nice little quote that I think will come back to bite him. As long as this map doesn't go 7-0, we'll have enough to talk about. He will definitely be eating his words.
That was in reference to our breaks in between maps, by the way, if anybody's curious as to the context there. And I think, considering the name's Orbit, I might as well bring up the spaceship launch from yesterday, the Starship launch from yesterday. Hold up, they found an opening kill.
They did? Oh.
With an MP7 on Burnt Turkey playing 0. Because MP7's apparently meta now. I suppose this is back in 2018 when there's still the ACOG on it, but we'll move on. Hong Kong Rebels, this season for them is like the Elon Starship from just yesterday, where it goes up and the first 50 seconds is really cool, and it just blows up and is left in smoke.
Well, there's something here. Maybe Hong Kong Rebels, they took out BJL. They have the 0 cameras for the roam as Vipoa. Now, he's heading over to the floor. They are working through that top floor and the second floor as well, so something's brewing. Something's cooking in the kitchen, which is almost burnt down, but there's a single flame in the corner, which you can cook your Eggo waffles on, and Hong Kong Rebels. They have some food that they can cook. We'll see if the next minute and 30 seconds, if they can pull together a round win and avoid that 7-0.
Oh, shot from up above with a C8, drops Wimpy, and that's another off the board. Most importantly, a C4 from the Mute gone as well. So Orbit's going to have to try and play aggressive here, and Giddy doing just that with the MP5 SD in hand is able to find at least 1 kill back. CZ's trying to play aggressive up White Stairs, maybe given the opportunity because the Buck is none the wiser, had the skeleton key out, and gave CZ a rotation back as he finds a follow-up kill. Orbit, even after giving Hong Kong Rebels signs of life, are not done beating him down here on Cafe.
The worst part of this, there are no drones for them to use. Both Doug and Burnt Turkey's drones have been shot out. So Doug is going to enter the site. I think Burnt Turkey, he's going to set up a flank cam before he heads down onto the site. But Doug has no idea. He's not even ADS'd at that point. So now Burnt Turkey, this is the closest round that we have had the entire map. And Hong Kong Rebels are going to get 7-0'd unless Burnt Turkey can win the 1v2. Flank cams are set up to get just maybe a crumb of information at this point, but you can tell CZ and Inrio are ready to finish this map out. They've got a nice little pre-fire crossfire set up for them, and now that Burnt Turkey has most assuredly given away his position, he does have the angle set up, but he can't shoot both ways at once. CZ goes for the peek, but there is Inrio. Like I said, the crossfire is there, and a 7-0 on Cafe of the first semifinal of SFCL. That's a doozy.
Super close first map here. Orbit looking about as clean as the map, or a little more.
Just trying to think about that statement. Like, it makes sense. You don't want to be close to a hand grenade, and horseshoes are based on how close you are, but like, what's the point of that statement? Like, what? Not you saying it.
No, like the point when you're talking about like broad spectrum, it's still 1-0 whether Orbit wins 8-7 or 7-0.
That's true. Okay.
How close map 1 how close something is only really matters in horseshoes, how close you are to the center post, or hand grenades, how close you are to your target, rather than map 1.
Okay, that makes sense.
First time I've ever had that happen.
The first time you ever had to explain a euphemism
No,
before?
First time I've ever made sense.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that definitely tracks a little bit as we go through these ban phases. Hong Kong Rebels, they're opting to take out the Habana, contrary to Orbit's Maverick ban. So Ace is still gonna be here, but that might make the CC wall a little bit harder to open. As I'm expecting the defensive bans to be a little typical. Soulless, maybe on this one we could see an Azami ban, because Azami on Rafters
Definitely
is a different demon. You do not want to go up against an Azami on Rafters in Garage.
Last time we saw this map played, it was Bandit banned from Hong Kong Rebels. This time it's Orbit banning out the Mira. I mean, in all fairness, they banned out the Solus last time around, so they had a free ban, it seems, and they removed the Mira. That should mean that they play a crap ton of Azami. If they don't, I'm going to be a little upset that they leave her up, but no. BJL is going to pick up the Azami for 2 seconds and then play musical operators for a few seconds as well. I'm a little surprised if we do not see an Azami pick, and we will. So Azami picked up by BJL, who recently, as Klims mentioned in our original pre-show of the previous stream, has made the switch from what was the original hard support to the main fragging role, with then Inrio taking that more support-ish role on the site.
Yeah, I mean, Azami is pretty good on most of the sites. I think Baseman, it's very open. That's the one thing. There's a lot of areas where you can enter from. You've got dirt, you've got the hatch, you've got from the actual hallway itself. And Azami definitely works when site lanes are focused. Think rafters, where you have to come in either from the below her, where she can't actually access the rafters. She can always have her eyes where her key barriers will be and where those attackers will be coming from. The first time we're really seeing IQ come out. I know that she was brought out a couple times on Cafe, but the information was very, very big on Orbit, especially on the attack as well. So I can only think about how those black eyes will be, as already we're seeing a spawn peak very early on from getting.
CZ's still trying to play aggressive as well. Reminder, 1.93 rating in map number 1. Had as many kills as the Hong Kong Rebels on his own. He went 11 and whatever. The Hong Kong Rebels had 11 kills as a team. So hopefully something changes for both sides. Because I love seeing CZ dominance, but I also like seeing close maps a lot more than CZ dominance. So I'd like to see some really cool frags, but every so often, let Hong Kong Rebels make it close.
CZ got close to actually besting the rating he had. Which I'm very surprised, because he was 18 and 5. On the one where he got above a 2-0 rating, he was 11 and 2, which I think technically in terms of KD is better. But right now, this is pretty good. Hong Kong Rebels have not died early on. Okay, that was probably the biggest example of a caster curse I've ever seen. Vipoa goes down to CZ, and they start off the map with an entry death.
The only way that you save yourself from casters cursing that one is saying that there's observer transference delay between them and the
right.
Saying it already happened before you said it. It totally already happened. It's not Light Rose's fault that Hong Kong Rebels lost an open. Now granted, they lose their Ash, which isn't the worst thing, but Vipo has been a main fragging tool of the Hong Kong Rebels for a lot of this season. Not really the series, because nobody's really been fragging on that side of the season, but you're looking at, well, you need something, and there goes your information gathering as well. IQ gone, BJL setting up a flank down the main stairs, is about to find the freest of kills possible. Down goes Rai, your Thatcher dead. BJL needs to put his glasses on because JetCon was sitting in bar, but still, it's a follow-up back, as JetCon, well, the aforementioned player, is now left alone in a 1v4.
Alright, I'm hoping that this round is a fluke, because this is looking like exactly what we're seeing on Cafe. JetCon, though, pulls out a nice little two-piece there on Inrio and CZ, and suddenly makes this round a little bit more achievable. There's no C4 for Orbit to take him out with, but JetCon does spot the bandit. He doesn't shoot, knowing there's one other player of Wimpy that can flank him at any opportunity, but they have his exact position. They have the yellow ping, and if JetCon can win the 1v1, which he does against Wimpy, it would be a 1v4 ace to come out from him, but no! Giddy denies it, and an exciting first round that maybe shouldn't have happened, but from a back of one player, Orbit had to fight for that one, Dan.
That's the closest round of the series thus far. So close, yet so far for the Hong Kong Rebels. And it had to come down to one player as well. That 1vx wouldn't have even happened if BJL actually saw him looking at the bar, obviously looking a different direction after picking up that first kill. But it's still an Orbit round. Again, closeness only matters in horseshoes and hand grenades. A round is a round, no matter how many different ways you spin it. And CCTV Cash, now the second of play. We're going to see CZ pick up the Azami this time around. With BJL making the adjustment onto the Malusi. Now I'm curious to see what the primary weapon of BJL is, because different players pick different things. But you'd expect it, right? To be the MP5?
I forget. What is Malusi's other gun?
Is that a shotgun? I don't remember if it's a shotgun.
Yeah,
I was thinking Wamai for a second. It's MP5K and AUG for Wamai. I was thinking Wamai.
No, does Malusi... Like, nobody uses Malusi's second gun. I don't even remember what it is. Yeah, we're fact-checking.
Malusi wields the Super 90, which is the primary shotgun of Frost.
I have never seen a Malusi run the Super 90 in my life.
My teammate did it 3 days ago.
Okay.
We lost that game, by the way. We lost that game, by the way.
think that does the speaking for why you should not bring the Super 90 on EJL. Down goes Wimpy, and unfortunately, there's no time for a rehost. I think
They still have 3 seconds.
I believe
No,
it's
they
once the prep phase is done, though.
Depends on the. Sometimes it's prep phase or no damage in the first 30 seconds. Sometimes it's just 1 phase. I know college mostly is 30 seconds. Either way, it's an opening pick technically for HK Rebels. We'll go with some technicalities to give them some leeway to open up map number 2. And they need to be able to work off of that. Wimpy, I honestly don't know what the operator was. I believe it was Smoke, if I recall correctly. That or Mute they were playing on this defensive setup. So that's a pretty big pickup either way. You're still looking at an important duel. BJL needs to get out of dodge and will do so with their life, but we still want to try and hold down this garage setup with a lot of pressure. CZ drops Burnt Turkey though. There goes your ace, and well, yeah, holes are already made. Their kill holes go both ways.
She's a demon. Like, she has the operator portrait of a literal demon, and you can see why. She creates the smallest of holes that if you fill it with the perfect outline of a head, it will get shot out. So now that opening pick is worthless. BJL teleports, and it doesn't net him a kill. So magic will not help you when it comes out to guns, but Giddy is right there for the refrag. He's got 3 on this map so far, but CZ still holds Raptors. He peek takes out Rai. The frag grenade goes on through, but it's not enough to drop CZ, who peeks right back up, finds the kill onto Doug, and now it comes down to another 1vx, but Vipoa does not have the health. He cannot peek CZ confidently, and the Raptors Azami. I said it in the ban phase. Dan, am I right or am I wrong?
Oh, you're 100% right. That's why I was surprised there was no Azami ban. But in all fairness, I don't know why Hong Kong Rebels didn't ban out the Azami. Sure, Solus is a difficulty, but you expect a defensive setup to ban out what they please, and we had seen Orbit ban Solus in the previous iteration of these two teams playing Clubhouse. They leave Azami up. Orbit wants to play Azami, so naturally, they leave her up just the same. And then they turn her into a casual 4K as CZ decides he doesn't want to play over on CCTV Cache anymore, nor did he want Hong Kong Rebels to even pick it up. So he now locks the site and they'll move over to Gym Bedroom, and CZ's going to pick it right back.
Interesting to note, we're seeing teams elect to not go to CCTV anymore. Like, they are, some are rather willing to go to bar stage than CCTV. But I think with the Azami getting let through, the defense is going to feel so much better about that, which is why we saw Orbit go there, why Azami is so powerful on Raptor. Like, the fact that one operator can decide whether or not you're going to a single site on a map, that can show you how strong Azami is if you all didn't already know, which you should, by now, know how strong Azami is.
No, Azami isn't strong. Please don't tell Ubisoft. I like playing her in my rank codes. Please don't nerf.
Please nerf,
of course,
please nerf.
Unless CZ's playing her, then maybe it's probably. This guy's already nuts. He doesn't need a broken operator to help on that one. Either way, Orbit now up 9-0 in the series. 2-0 in this map, and have yet to give Hong Kong Rebels a round. We're very close to doing so at the start of this one, but, you know, again, doesn't really matter how close you are. Can't pick it up at the end. Orbit have looked fairly decent, but it was a lot better back in map number 1. There still need to be a few adjustments to their defensive setups. That last round was still fairly close, all things considered, but they need to be able to pick up those opening duels as well. Losing Wimpy obviously didn't particularly help their case, but I mean, even without him, they still looked pretty clean.
Yeah, and Wimpy just picks that smoke right on up. A pretty powerful operator that you mentioned was gone, but I mean, they didn't even need him. Will they need him again in this round? Because you look back to the last map, Inrio did not spot like a single player. He had 3 kills, no deaths, and it shows you like how strong some of these fragging players for Orbit are. 2 are taken off the board, one by CZ, one by Giddy, and now Doug is gonna flash Logi, but there's a smoke grenade covering the hatch, and now because of that Ying, Giddy's gonna go down, but it might not really mean as much because it is just Orbit who are dominating no matter the site, no matter the map. CZ has 7 kills in 3 rounds, Dan. Nobody can stop this man.
What? Hold up, JetCon. No shot. He baited BJL with that. was already watching the window, and as soon as he peeks it, BJL gets absolutely domed on the swing. And JetCon now has some more information to work with as well. Wimpy's been seen inside of logistics, and JetCon's going to slowly make his way over, making sure he doesn't make all that much noise to indicate he's still above. Obviously, sound cues are still there, but not as many to indicate he's in the general vicinity. The drone will not see that smoke anymore, though. Wimpy has backed away, and with the Mossberg in hand, is looking to drop JetCon. As soon as he drops down the hatch, he's going to make sure it's even 6 feet further down. Here comes a drop. It's down to whether the swing comes through, and Wimpy sends feet further down. Clean shots. Clean round again there for Orbit. Much better than the first two, all in all.
Now, Orbit get to restart their entire site lineup. I think the good thing we can say about between this and Cafe, Hong Kong Rebels do feel a lot better. Like, these rounds aren't just a snowball down a hill of Orbit gets the opening pick, and then they find 4 more kills with HKR just floundering around. But right now, I mean, technically that is the least close round we've seen so far, and there was still a lot of firefights happening by construction, happening by Logi. And I think Hong Kong Rebels, they can put up a fight on 1 or 2 of these sites. Get around, please, for me and Dan, for the analysts on the desk, for everybody watching at home. Avoid the 14-0. That is a scoreline that I would not wish in my worst enemy, because it does the talking for you, and HKR are a better team.
Hey, I mean, Ozone of Lycus Empire, they got the second attempt with 6 Karma going to Copenhagen. They had that second opportunity to try and come back into the playoffs. They didn't get 14-0'd. Granted, it was 14-3, so not all that much better, but it's not a 14-0. That's what matters. Yeah. That is what matters. Sure, they lost 2-0, but they were playing up against Aerial Rise, one of the better teams in North America outside of Pro League, much less one of the better teams in SFCL. But Poa has some information. Sees he's walking into Lounge, but, well, there's the swing in towards Blight, playing around the default camera, but Vipoa wins the fight. And CZ is dead. I can't believe I'm saying that. Hong Kong Rebels have A, found an opening pick, and B, on to CZ. For some reason, he was not playing a zombie anymore. But hey, good opening duel.
The evil is defeated. Yes, they can actually do things around the map now. Like, you can play the game as normal without having to worry about this crazy player behind you. But Getty still has 4 kills. Like, he has a player right behind him of Wimpy covering him. But the time on the clock, there's a lot of that. Damn, there are 2 minutes remaining, and all 4 of these Orbit players are down inside the site. That gives a lot of time for JetCon as the Buck to create open the floor, for Burnt Turkey to open some of these hatches as well. I think Hong Kong Rebels, they play their cards right. They don't get shot out from underneath by the holes that they created. They have something of an opportunity in this round.
I would also like to set up from Orbit to be a little bit more condensed in the 4v5. When you're in a 3v5, you need to be able to bring something back, and you have to play aggressive. But 4v5s aren't the worst thing in the world, especially when you just have casual C4s from Inrio going up through the floor and dropping Rai. That's a kill back. They didn't have to over-aggress for it, and this condensed setup now for Orbit should work a significant bit better. A 4v4 with utility left over, the 2 Toxic Babes, 3 Toxic Babes actually, and 2 Impact Grenades still on the board. Hong Kong Rebels still have to play quickly. They cannot afford to allow this comfortability to set in, because if Orbit has the time now go in their favor alongside that man advantage dropped, that's when you're going to start to run into more problems than you can solve.
Oh, and you see those Kiba barriers just blocking sight lines as well. Even though Giddy had the impacts he could have destroyed those Selmas, that sight line is even better because it just kind of tickles HK Rebels, saying there's an opportunity here, but it's denied to them. BGL finds the kill onto Vipoa, giving Orbit the lead, as essentially you have to win out these smoke canisters. That'll give you about 20 seconds for the execution. You have nothing but your own guns in this situation, and so does Orbit, but they have the map control. They have the time. All they have to do is kill Burnt Turkey, make sure that diffuser gets dropped. That's exactly what happens. So now JetCon, the Buck was the hero of basement, and they flounder around. That's all that HK Rebels seem to be doing as they lose yet another round and are 3 rounds away from getting 14 14-0 in the SFCL semifinals, and finally, a timeout.
It took them 11 rounds, sorry. Just a little bit in between. A complete unnecessary point. The black ice skin on the MPX looks sick with Warden's glasses. Figured I'd interject that one. But Orbit's defensive setup looks honestly even better. I'm going to go back to the same conversation I had back on Cafe. They are confident and they know their own playstyle. They aren't trying something different just because they lost an opening duel, just because CZ's dead. They don't have to bring out a whole new playbook that's been sitting in the back corner of the library gathering dust. They have been comfortable with what they have prepped, and you can see it's working out for them. Wimpy, even with the disconnection, has 1 kill and 1 death. That means they've taken basically 2, maybe 3 gunfights, assuming nobody died in that gunfight, in the game. But that prep work has worked out so well because it's just utility at a distance, casual long-range engagements just to make sure that it's real estate control for the Hong Kong Rebels attack, and Orbit hasn't had to do anything out of the ordinary. They'll go back to CCTV cache. CZ will be back on the Azami, of which they found a 4K the last time we went to the site with them playing on that operator. And I'm scared for the Hong Kong Rebels because I don't see all that many differences in their operator lineup. They know what site we're heading to, but what's going to change for them? What has to switch up? More pressure on Garage?
I think one of the biggest things that you didn't talk about was when we look at the scoreboard, Doug is 1-4. He right now is technically at the bottom, and that could be a big reason why they aren't really putting up much when it comes to these gunfights. Doug is a big player for them on the entries. Burnt Turkey, especially when he's on the roam on the defense, but Hong Kong Rebels are on the attack. They don't have a player that they can really rely on. And JetCon, yes, he's got 6 kills. He's the only player, I believe, that has been positive this entire series for HK Rebels. And beyond, like, JetCon getting that first opening pick on Cafe, it has really been Hong Kong Rebels who have not stood a chance in these gunfights. They need their fraggers, and they just haven't had it. So they have to wake up in these 3 rounds.
And the important part is we saw at least some signs of life in an early round engagement in the previous round. They had information to play off of, and they made it actionable. A lot of times you see a team pick up info, and sure, they can maybe turn it into a kill, but not on a consistent basis. Vaipoa, who found that kill in the previous round, is now dead. The sledge is gone, nades are dead. Nothing's coming through from at least one of the 2 SAS operators in this round. The other of which, of course, the Thatcher, looking pretty good to start things off. They've already opened up CCTV and have looked pretty decent on the setup. Giddy's shouting out Yeti for
Shout
their
out
opening
Yeti.
kill. I'm pretty sure that's their setup on the bottom side to drop Vaipoa, who tried to play aggressive in stock, but I have no confusion.
Clearly, they're shouting at Xander because his analysis was so poignant and impactful on that first map that he was able to adapt. And that was the reason why he got the opening pick onto Vaipoa. But JetCon takes a little bit of some shrapnel from that shotgun. As the wall gets opened up, the 2 players inside a cache scramble, and a C4 gets thrown out, but
Wow.
it doesn't get anything. Wow, that was a very quick evacuation of construction by Hong Kong Rebels, but a pretty good one as they drain a lot of that plant denial coming out from orbit, and now they can back up, get a kill onto CZ, who has died 2 rounds in a row without getting a kill. Get that man advantage and start to get an execution and start to get around with the 60 seconds that they had left on the clock.
Significantly better possibilities this time around. Inrio peeks into Doug, does a decent bit of damage but can't find a kill. Same situation for JetCon, but they back away with their life most importantly. Still a 2 versus 3. Inrio stuck in that corner and is now dropped. BJL left alone, looking for the headshot, cannot find it, is now being collapsed upon from the red door just the same. Has to back away, reload the MP5 and play for another fight, but the problem is, what fight will they take? What avenue of attack will they gain on towards the site? The answer? An early grave. The Hong Kong Rebels have won a round in the semifinals.
They did it! They didn't get 14-0! Sound the alarm! Bring out the parade!
Wait. That just means if they called a timeout on Cafe, they would have won a round back then too.
That's how patterns work. Yeah, you're correct. That is what could have happened, but they still got 7-0. and they get around that one round that they got against Orbit on Clubhouse has been filled, and they could still get one more as, funny enough, Orbit don't go to Gym, which I think is still a pretty good site. They elect to go back here. Maybe they put CZ on the Azami, hoping that he's going to have a better time. Maybe they want to hold on to construction more this time, but it is definitely a little bit of an ego challenge. Going back to the same site that you lost, the only round that you have lost throughout the entire series.
You know, in fairness, it loves to say, never go back to the same site twice. It breeds a level of complacency that should not be in the game of Rainbow Six Siege. I think he has a soundboard for it, to the point that's how often he says it. But honestly, he's right. But this setup for Orbit, they are not changing all that much. The extent of their change is playing a little bit towards bar, and that's Giddy trying to do that. Maybe how he shouted out Yeti in the previous round, getting that kill on that side of the map, trying to drop out the sledge who was trying to aggress from the far west side. But if you try the exact same thing over and over again and expect a different result, dictionary definition of insanity on that. And if you try the exact same thing here, same operator composition, same lineup, will it work? That's the real question. Bandit Trick does just that. One Selma gone. I believe a second as well.
Ooh.
Burnt Turkey is down to a single Selma, and that Bandit Trick that didn't work out in the previous round and really set up Hong Kong Rebels for that crossfire on the site, that's an issue already taken care of in the first 30 seconds.
And now you either force that bandit back by some other means, or you go for the construction wall. Because that construction wall was a big reason why HKR were able to get that first round. The fact that Vipoa is there, Doug is droning on in. There isn't an adaptation yet. And Rai is setting up that thermite, but is it going to get Bandit Trick? It is. The wall is open, though. That one Selma was able to get through, and now the wall is open. But if you want to get another angle, a pinch, then Rai is going to have to go over by that construction wall, because the opener that was there for Hong Kong Rebels, the way inside of the site, isn't exactly the same.
Not the easiest of pickups. Vipoa still inside of construction, and the setup here for Hong Kong Rebels is open that up as quick as you can. In Rio, I thought was going to try and Bandit Trick, and then I looked out at the amount of batteries they have, and they have a whole lot of zero. Nade forward, that actually is through the floor, but doesn't find all that much. Orbit on the other side, finding 2 kills for only 1 trade back the other way, and even verticality working out through that bar hatch to set up that aggression, and most importantly, the 4v2. A nade to return, that'll go off the reinforcement, won't do any damage. There has to be something back and soon for Hong Kong Rebels if they want to have any shot at this round.
An EMP maybe to take care of some ADSs, maybe to take care of some Banshees, as that is all the utility. Yeah, that is all the utility that Hong Kong Rebels have left. It's a little bit of desperation, as Doug is going to enter the site, and he is just going to pre-fire a ghost. Doesn't get anything, but JetCon does. Slowly chips away at the Orbit lead as Doug gets his fourth, and now a good spray through the wall onto Wimpy, leaving CZ in the 1v2. He's able to get a nice shot on JetCon, and that chef's kiss onto Doug. I want to see that replay. That man should be MVP of SFCL. I don't know if we've ever had one before. Give it to him.
It looks like he should be locked up for war crimes, because most of the time when he takes a gunfight, it doesn't even look like his opponent has a gun in hand. That's
disgusting.
How dominant he's been. And the gross part about it is that Hong Kong Rebels honestly gave him that fight. I'm going to say it. Taking that fight in the way they did was a mistake. Sure, you have the aggression, you know exactly where he is, but why jump in through the AC window? You already have cache control. Jump in through the construction window, walk around the backside, double peek it from the cache door, or play the real estate you already have, force him to jump in through the rafters window, and then get the diffuser down. They didn't, and they lose off the back of it. Hong Kong Rebels is going to start on the defensive side with a bottom floor hold. They need a near perfect defensive setup. Granted, we just saw that from Orbit. The only site they lost was one they proceeded to win right after, off the back of a masterful play from CZ, first kills since round 3. But what do you do here if you're Hong Kong? Their defense looked atrocious on Cafe. What has to change?
Obviously, the first step get entries. Get yourself a net advantage. And I think the player that you look for is Burnt Turkey. He does have the assistance of Rai with those jammers, but I think playing on the Raptors, that's a good play. If that is the area that Orbit wants to attack, use that character that is essentially built for that specific area and try to get something done. CZ does spot the player, but doesn't hit that shot. As now with the wall opening up, both Turkey and Rai will actually back up into logistics with that rotate made. They stay up on the second floor, as with the Selma, there could be a little bit of a pinch coming in, and it is a pinch that Hong Kong Rebels could be ready for. They've got the mute, they've got the Azami ready for a potential refrag if they need, but the information is just too important. CZ does go down, and that is the player that clinched it out for Orbit in that previous round. Something could happen, but the huge drop there from Giddy.
Oh, and the follow-up is there, though. Rai again a kill with the SMG-11, and this time that should just be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Orbit are pushed back so far. This top floor roam worked perfectly for Hong Kong. And this is the opening they needed. They honestly just needed a little bit more aggression back on Cafe. I think that may very well be the recipe for success. Does Orbit just hold W here in the 2v4? The situation honestly warrants it. Sure, you can play as much verticality as you want, but there's still a C4 on Rai. If you get caught in the wrong spot, you may no longer have your feet attached to the rest of your body. But what's the call? How do you set up a 2v4 with limited utility? What, claymores, a couple nades, and a sledgehammer? That's all they've got.
He's gonna, I believe, activate a Banshee, so there might be some... Oh, that's a little tech right there that maybe the game isn't intended to, but it's pretty nice to see as Wimpy tries to go for the hallway peek. That's where Doug is, who got a couple of kills in the previous couple rounds. He is in a little hole that he's trying to find his way out of, and is definitely a big part of why Hong Kong Rebels are... They've got a route, and they could find more. All they have to do is kill Wimpy, kill Giddy, but Doug doesn't stand a chance. Wimpy takes him down. The frag grenade doesn't get anything, but maybe it clears utility. Clears out the site. There's still a good chance for Orbit as they sledgehammer directly into the site. Wimpy finds his second, and now with the help of Giddy, just peek this man, why don't you? In the 1v1. It has been all Hong Kong Rebels so far, but they can't win the round, Dan!
I can't believe it.
They had a 2-man advantage!
I can't believe it. It was a 2v4, and Orbit brought it back, and now they're on match point.
How?
This is usually the point where I'm supposed to say something of substance.
I think the only thing you should say, all hail Wimpy.
You know, I think
all hail
this
Wimpy.
is going to be a terrible reference. This is going to be a terrible reference. I think Wimpy needs a rebrand. He's no longer Wimpy. That man is hefty.
Look, I was there when Wimpy was 0-9 on Villa. I saw that man at his lowest. He is a beefcake. He is built different, and he is going to put Orbit over the finish line, put them in the SFCL Grand Finals. And all joking aside, it is just really good to see him actually performing well.
I don't even remember this. Burnt Turkey put a Kiba barrier on the logistics hatch. I'm still wondering why. I mean, the only option is to deny vertical shots, but I mean, you can just stand on a Kiba barrier and it breaks. It's not like it's an extra barricade you can put down to, replace the hatch or anything. It doesn't do it. I don't know. I was just confused. I remembered I wanted to bring that up and completely forgot it.
Remember when Kiba barriers could be stood on? In the test phase?
Yeah, for test server, and then Rainbow Six was like, that's a game-breaking.
It was a bug, technically.
Yeah, it was also weird because it would add an extra hatch that was not supposed to be specific.
It would be interesting to see, but it would also break the game, make Azami pretty darn strong, as if she already isn't one of the strongest defenders in the game so far. Jetcon finds an opening pick. He is trying his hardest in this map to give them a fighting chance, but nobody really has his back so far. Jetcon still in lounge, does move over to the bar. He actually uses the impact to create a hole and drops CZ just like that. Another round that starts out with the Hong Kong Rebel seal of approval, and Vipoa quickly does too, making this, I hope, their round for sure.
Don't say it.
I'm not knocking on wood.
In a 4v2.
Yep, no. All right, if the round ends on a 1v5, so be it, Dan.
Honestly, that's fair. Enrio has an exothermic charge, 3 flashes, and 2 drones remaining. That is the extent of utility. Getty says AFK. Pulls the old, I'm in a ranked game, please run after him.
Me when I lie.
That, I also say that. So yeah, that's entirely fair. Here comes Enrio, walking down the stairs, will be detected by the Banshee and should prompt a swing from both sides. There it is. Rai will clean house, and a flawless round from the Hong Kong Rebels. Of the 2 rounds they've picked up in this series, one of them has been flawless. That's a pretty good percentage in terms of flawless victories versus victories. Maybe not victories versus losses.
Yay. Yay. Flawless round. Yay. You're only losing by 4 in the semifinals of SFCL.
After losing map 1.
After losing map 1 7-0. Hong Kong Rebels. Go to gym. It's a last-ditch effort at this point. Every single round has to be perfect. Then they have to win 2 more in overtime, one of which will be on attack. And I feel like a lot of pressure is getting put on JetCon. He's gotten the entry in a lot of these rounds, and he has really put them over the line in certain areas. And granted, Vipo has been there. Doug has been there in key situations, but you're still losing 6-2. You can only try your hardest as an individual when Rainbow Six is a team game. And right now, Orbit are playing much better as a synergistic squad.
And the important part there as well is JetCon's 11-6. Yeah, sure, the stats will tell you that one. But your reminder, he found a 4K in what was a 1v4. Almost ace clutched, but just wasn't to be. Sure, they're still impactful frags, but some would argue they're just exit kills in a round that was already a foregone conclusion. Obviously in the earlier stages of that round, rather than later stages when it was 1v1, 1v2. But stats don't always tell the full story. Sure, they give you an indication long term, but you can't rely on that to say, oh yeah, this is a determining factor in why Hong Kong Rebels have stayed in this. It's also been Vipoa, who has found impact frags in seemingly every single round, dropping CZ more than anybody else on the team. Doug, also looking clean as ever, having to play for information and fragging ability. But this is also a gym bedroom defense, where Orbit are trying to remove the extension and also play around that long-term denial as well. There goes the extension around towards CCTV, but Burn Turkey's still in the vicinity around Cash, as is Doug on red.
Now, C4 gonna be thrown on out. It wasn't thrown just far enough. It was a good heft, but unfortunately, it's not enough to make up for the fact that Burn Turkey is gone. And Doug does stay in his position over by red stairs. He's got to keep a barrier. He's got an ADS. And now he takes a little bit more damage. And the frag grenade timed perfectly to take him out and now make that CCTV cash book a lot better. And Vipoa always inches away from getting the headshot. He course corrects, takes out Wimpy, and now certain areas are going to be inaccessible. They only have one more thermite breach in Rio if they choose the time. If they can repel this attack enough with maybe the 1C4 that Rai has in their pocket, get one more kill, at least, Dan, I think there's a chance.
I like the dedication here from Orbit. They are making sure they dedicate themselves to this setup. BJL looking to clear out that logistics side, does not see anybody, but also doesn't clear out the master side either. Vipoa finds their second kill in the round, and it's down to a 3 versus 3. Whatever semblance of control was there is now gone. Nade will clear out the shield, looking to clear out the setup around the bomb chassis as well, but they can't capitalize with a kill onto Vipoa, who is still alive and kicking on the site itself. It's down to the Hong Kong Rebels to play for time. They have limited utility, the extent of which consists of a bandit batter, which will be completely useless, and a C4 to try and pick up this round. JetCon is flashed off the angle, but is still safe sitting inside logistics, and happy to play there for the time being. They are playing for a late round rotation, should it be required. Vipoa, still inside a master, prone behind the couch, able to find their third on the round. JetCon activates inside the logistics, finding Inrio as they walk around, and the Hong Kong Rebels survive yet again.
I think it's the first time we've seen Orbit kind of fumble a little bit. I mean, they had the advantage, they had time as well, but they just fed into Hong Kong Rebels. It was a great job of IPOA of holding down the site, playing just around the shield and around that little pillar by that bed to keep Hong Kong Rebels in this by a hair. They still need to win 3, and now they're going to play that bar stage, which still requires holding up by CCTV cache, holding up by that gym area because of how pivotal some of those hatches are. But I'm going to be honest, Dan, I could see Orbit maybe going for a little bit of a rush. They've had the advantage almost the entire game. They still feel confident, of course. Is there enough of a lead that they could potentially risk going for a rush here?
I'd say yes, but it would come down to their comfortability on this site specifically. I like their composition. The one change I would like to see from the Hong Kong Rebels is instead of bringing that Cade, of which isn't really required, switch that out for a Mira. You'd expect them to play a little bit on the top floor, and if you do make that change, Cade for Mira, you basically play the old Na'Vi Stage 2 EUL setup, where they played bar stage, held it from the top floor, and made sure there was not comfortability on the site, nor on that top extension, adding a little bit more time as a requisite. But with that castle to kind of reinforce a little bit more, they're making up for that lack of a mirror, trying to play aggressive on this side. I like the setup all in all. That honestly would be the only change, and honestly isn't even a requirement either. I think Burnt Turkey's picking up that Cade to make sure this top floor hold can be a little bit more consistent.
As well, and Rai holding in Strip, I believe, to just make sure that he has somewhere to play, he has somewhere to watch all these yokai drones, anywhere that really would need to be held. And Wimpy having that OSA shield is going to set it up for really just holding over the entire area. You set it down, use Inrio to blow that wall wide open, and they already have pre-placed drones as well. And is there a Thatcher on the board? There's actually not. They don't have an IQ. All they have is the pocket EMPs of BJL. As okay, I thought the Kaid Claw disappeared for a second, as right now we're just seeing a little bit of a cat and mouse game between Orbit and Hong Kong Rebels.
He's going to throw this in. We'll look to open a few things up. I would like to see one of these Rotera drones open up the stock wall to get into sight, because, well, after they've taken out that Electro Claw, the bottom floor is not reinforced. It was actually the impact EMPs that took care of that Electro Claw, not even needing the full EMPs of that Thatcher. But this bottom side is not reinforced. It's down to the castle barricade. Well, actually, it is reinforced. Just visuals lie to me. And it's down to the castle barricade and this now opened reinforced wall, both of which have been taken care of. And Orbit have found their way onto the site. It's just a matter of can they turn it into a round victory.
Taro using its explosive powers to blow up that bulletproof, and now JetCon, who's been a big player for Hong Kong Rebels, a second chance for them, goes down. 60 seconds left. There has to be a refrag somewhere, but as smoke canisters start to deploy, Wimpy gets that shield down. A lot of power is going to be in those yokais, but the impact destroys the shield. Gives Hong Kong another angle to work with. The Doug does spot the player going down, and Bipoa actually gets that finishing job. Another smoke canister does get deployed, but they still have the yokais. Dan, they could just use those cameras, whoop, go up onto the roof, and stun any single thing that Inrio wants to do. Burnt Turkey holding up on the top floor. He needs to appear right now as two of more of his friends are gone. CC could get the finishing touch, but unfortunately cannot find that kill. So Burnt Turkey, what a power position he is in as this diffuser goes down, Dan.
He's trying to remove it and cannot play from the top floor. Now trying to play the verticality setup inside of the master bedroom, but Rai on the flex back from bathroom finds the kill back onto BJL. Almost a follow-up, but cannot finish off the kill. His teammate's gone. He's in a 1 versus 2 and needs to be able to take out that Talon shield, but doesn't have the utility to do so. Instead, played the shield in this round, and that will cost him the game. Wimpy finds the final kill, and Orbit are headed to the SFCL Season 6 Grand Finals.
And a nice little finish as well. Nothing that could have been happened there. No impacts. Not even, I think, a yokai that could have helped with information as well. It was just once that plant gone down,